Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Can everyone who is able please rise for our national anthem?
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command, car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
The Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations such as the Hattaway-Wendourok, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Port Colborne stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
Thank you. We'll have the adoption of the agenda. We have an addition to report 2025-38 under items requiring separate discussion as item 12.2. Please note our CAO and our Director of Public Works are joining us virtually tonight. Moved by Councillor Hoyle, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the Council agenda dated February 11th, 2025 be confirmed as amended. All in favor? Carried. Are there any disclosures of interest this evening? None? Proclamations. We have one. Heritage Week. February 17th to the 23rd. Moved by Councillor Beauregard, seconded by Councillor Aguilina. Whereas the third week of February marks Heritage Week, in which we celebrate heritage in all its forms, cultural and natural, architectural, archaeological, and collections, and its diverse traditions and cultural expressions. And whereas Heritage Week provides a wonderful opportunity for individuals and communities to reflect on their contribution to Ontario, and whereas how heritage is conserved, promoted, and commemorated, and how they might shape the future. And whereas during Heritage Week 2025, the Port Colborne Historical and Marine Museum will celebrate the theme of Click and Connect by highlighting the different ways history can be digitized. Join us all week to explore online exhibitions, access new databases, and watch new heritage videos on local history. Now therefore, I, Deputy Mayor Ron Bodner, do hereby proclaim February 17th to the 23rd, 2025 as Heritage Week in Port Colborne. All in favor? Carried. We're into presentations. We have a Canal Days recap and presentation by our business community and events ambassador, Olga Lofen. And I'll turn it over to you, Olga.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Bodner, councillors, staff, and attendees. Thank you for the opportunity to present an update from last year's 2024 Canal Days, as well as share some exciting announcements for this year's Canal Days. To start off, Jessica's going to play last year's recap video for us.
One day and the next day gone. Sometimes you bend, sometimes you stand, sometimes you turn your back to the wind. There's a world outside the darkened door where blues won't haunt you anymore. With a brave heart, free lover's soul, come ride with me to the distant shore. We won't hesitate, break down the garden gate. There's not much time left today. Life is a highway.
Thank you, Jessica. Okay. Yeah, perfect. If you could turn your attention to the slide on the screen, it's a snapshot of some of the successes we saw in 2024. Of all the attendees that came to Canal Days, the museum saw over 4,500 themselves. They also hosted the opening ceremony of the festival, featuring the Strong Water Singers, and successfully expanded their reenactment area by adding 2 new groups. Since this festival is such a strong economic development driver, we encouraged all local businesses to participate. Within the festival footprint, roughly 30 businesses decided to keep their doors open. We also had a few outside of the festival footprint join this year as vendors along the festival route. I would like to highlight that of the 45 plus musical elements that were hired for the festival, the 9 participating restaurants that did join us for the serving of alcohol along the footprint hired 36 bands themselves, including the Port Colborne Operatic Society joining us this year to showcase their 2025 performance of Anything Goes, and they're excited to come back this year. Lastly, we forged several new partnerships, including one at the concert series in the park with the wineries of Niagara-on-the-Lake Board, and also the Port Colborne Wave Hockey Association. Next slide, please. So over the next few slides, we'll highlight the revenue and operating costs Canal Days saw. The key drivers in 2024 included sponsorship, which we tripled from 2023 to 2024. Grant support was key. Staff were successful at securing the Experience Ontario grant, which was provincial, for $125,000, as well as the regional grant for $40,000 from the Niagara Tourism Partnership, which we used towards marketing. A notable shift was seen in drink sales, which you'll see on the next slide. So in 2023, the revenue from drink sales was $226,000. but in 2024 it was down to $156,000. Saturday's fence breach occurred after capacity, and the revenue after the venue capacity had been reached, and the city proactively shut down the special occasions permit. If you can flip to the next slide. Sorry, so here you'll see revenue from the Empire, here you'll see the budget and forecast. So I'd like to highlight that the revenue from the Empire Sandy and vendors was below budget this year. This year's greater emphasis will be placed on advanced ticketing and marketing. We also hope to sell Empire Sandy tickets early on in the farmers market and also at our community concert series to see if we can raise more awareness. You'll notice also that advertising and sponsorship target for 2025 is lower than the budget than the internal target. This is based on an early effort, and we anticipate good things to come. We do want to point out that sometimes costs for things like security can be higher than anticipated. So we might just be looking at an offset. If we can click to the next slide. I'd like to draw your attention on this slide to contract services, which I'd like to point out that includes emergency services such as EMS, Niagara Regional Police, the NRP Tactical Unit joined us this year as well. We also hired an additional security company to oversee the downtown footprint, as well as one in the concert area, and also portable facilities, which are a $45,000 contract based on our needs and attendance at the festival. Additionally, we'd like to highlight program supplies, which include vessels and entertainment spending. This year we welcomed back the Letty G. Howard with a price tag of $40,000, and unfortunately Empire Sandy sales were roughly $35,000 below our forecasted budget. Performance fees include and production costs and commissions totaled $330,000. Next slide, please. So a new approach was taken last year in regards to sponsorship. We put together a team of city employees and pursued sponsored based on existing relationships. Next slide, please. The result was very fruitful. We doubled our sponsors compared to previous years with a total of $300,000 plus collected towards canal days and community events. Next slide, please. So over the next two slides, I just want to highlight some of the key sponsors that helped make Canal Days and our city events a success. We've got GeoRail as our title sponsor, Rankin Construction, as well as Port Colborne Quarries, and Valet, as well as Labatt. Next slide, please. And then on the next slide, I won't read it, but it highlights the rest of our sponsors as well as some community partners that participated in making our events such a huge success. Next slide, please. So regarding sponsorship going forward, staff have already begun contacting past sponsors and reaching out to new partners. This year's package, which has, I believe was released 2 weeks ago, includes year-round opportunities, but we've also added advertising at Valley Health and Wellness Center. We encourage counselors to connect with our team if there is anyone you think we should reach out to who might be a potential supporter. Next slide, please. Feedback is very important to event staff and city staff, so we do go through a great extent of reaching out to everyone that's involved in Canal Days. If we can click to the next slide. In terms of how we collect feedback, we do online surveys. Through private online surveys, we reach out to staff, retailers, vendors, service providers, vendors such as the Empire Sandy, as well as sponsors and partners. There also is a collection of in-person feedback as well. So this year we added ambassadors who collected feedback. We had 2 city information booths where feedback was collected. Checking with vendors over the course of 4 days also provides a lot of feedback. We host City Hall debriefs with all staff. We've reached out to Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario. We connect with emergency services, all our special occasions permit participants, and of course staff. And lastly, social media monitoring is very extensive pre-event, during the event, and then as well as after with a post-event review. So over the next couple of slides, will be featured some feedback from various community groups and partners. So Jessica, if you want to just kind of click through. So from community partners, one of the quotes that stood out, or one of the points of feedback that stood out, was that I loved working with the city team. Everyone is so kind and helpful. I hope we can partner more in the future. Next slide. From volunteers, every year I'm more impressed with how smoothly the event runs. To run an event where people want to return year after year and bring their friends and family is an amazing accomplishment, and the Canal Days website was extremely helpful. From local businesses, we had two. I'd like to thank everyone who works for the City of Port Colborne for all the behind-the-scenes work that may go unnoticed. I appreciate it. Thank you. My personal business is not greatly impacted. However, I feel Canal Days helps local businesses very well. From vendors, I would love to applaud you and the team on vendor safety, especially with the incoming storm. I've seen event coordinators handle this very poorly, and I think you guys are one of the best, putting our safety and the patrons at the forefront. Setup is always easy, communication is great, and the trust that you have with us is great and reciprocal. For event goers, for a small town to hold a festival of this size is astounding, and I'd like to thank the City of Port Colborne staff, organizers, and volunteers for pulling this off yet again. We didn't see one unhappy face in our travels. And lastly, from city staff, the concerns I feel are the most attended and anticipated venue for all. We had even more of a hiccup this year on Saturday night, and hoping to see some changes for upcoming years. So over the next few slides, I'd like to address some of the changes we're proposing for this year. As a result of debriefs, numerous recommendations for improvement will be pursued, including the following, which are discussed in greater detail over the next few slides. Continued focus on safety and security. So enhancing emergency service during the festival remains a top priority. In light of the fence breach at Saturday's concert in 2024, additional safety and security measures are being implemented to further protect residents, tourists, vendors, volunteers, and city staff. The tender process for this year's festival security has recently concluded, and staff are currently evaluating proposals with contract awarding expected in March. A security consultant who has overseen numerous large-scale events, festivals, has joined the Canal Days team, bringing expertise in crowd control, site planning review, and overall security management throughout the festival. For the second consecutive year in a row, an emergency control room in partnership with Odyssey Medical will be set up at City Hall to oversee emergency calls during the festival. And continued collaboration with the Niagara Regional Police for increased law enforcement presence in 2024. There was increased presence from the NRP in 2024, including the deployment of a special order unit in the concert area, both on Friday and Saturday. Last year, Niagara Emergency Services were set up at the concert series, and this year we've already spoken with them about what we can do to cover more of the downtown festival and have them join there as well so they can provide support for Odyssey Medical. Next slide, please. A refocus on vendors. So new this year is the introduction of a comprehensive vendor guide designed to provide essential information, answer any questions, and guide. The guide will also provide a revised pricing model that's set to take effect this year. With applications having gone live in January, a tiered pricing structure based on designated zones was introduced alongside the guide and a more streamlined vendor application. The updated process allows vendors to indicate their preferred locations, aiming to improve both the vendor experience and the overall festival layout. As part of this new pricing model, we're excited to announce the return of the Artisan Market to Charlotte Street, where visitors can once again explore a vibrant selection of unique handcrafted items. Additionally, the West Street Hydro project scheduled for completion this summer. Additionally, with the West Street Hydro project scheduled for completion this summer, event staff will be lifting, hopefully, height restrictions in the West Street zone to allow more flexible setup in terms of marquees and heights of vendor booths. Next slide, please. Family-friendly programming. So in 2024, the Kids Zone was successfully relocated from Seaway Park down to King George Park by Market Square. Building on that success this year, the Recreation Zone, in partnership with the YMCA of Niagara, will move to Clarence Street, joining the Kids Zone to create a vibrant hub of family-friendly activities and attract more visitors and shoppers to this area of the festival. This expanded zone will now operate Friday through Monday, extending beyond last year's hours, which actually ran Saturday to Monday. So hopefully that will also attract some more vendors who hope to be there for the additional day. Next slide, please. So programming at the concert series at H.H. Noel Lakeview Park. This year's musical lineup promises to be an unforgettable experience with live entertainment scheduled at the park for Friday and Saturday nights. Following a successful debut in 2024, event staff are thrilled once again to partner with Wineries of Niagara-on-the-Lake to promote tourism and showcase the one-of-a-kind Niagara experience, but to our festival goers. I'd like to also mention that community partners who support the concert series through their dedicated volunteers include the Port Colborne Girls Wave Hockey Association and the Port Colborne Minor Hockey. And we encourage all local groups to connect with us should they want to become involved in Canal Days. Next slide, please. Sunday programming. So on behalf of the events team, I'm thrilled to announce a new and exciting festival programming for August 3rd that will take place at 214 West Street. Starting in the early evening, 2 musical rooftop acts will be featured, with the last set playing during the much beloved fireworks along the Welland Canal. This new directive will alleviate the pressures on numerous resources which were historically needed on Sunday at the concert series, including volunteer and staff to oversee the bar, public works staff to maintain the grounds in preparation for Sunday's crowd, security to patrol the grounds, support from various emergency service groups, and public access to the park on Monday. With the shift in Sunday's programming evolving and no concerts on Monday, staff have reconnected with the local kite flyers in Port Colborne to see if they're interested in joining us for Canal Days once again and possibly other community events. Next slide, please. That's it for me. So thank you so much for the opportunity to recap last year's Canal Days and share with you some of the exciting things, just some of the exciting things that we're working on for this year's festival.
Thanks, Olga. Any questions, Council? Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Olga. That promo video was awesome. Like, I'm looking at that thinking, that's us. When you look at it, the clearness of it was amazing. Where will that be rolled out? I'm assuming online, but will it go to TV stations, Hamilton, maybe Buffalo? Just wondering.
Through your worship to Councillor Elliott. I'm actually not sure in terms of rolling out, but communications, I believe, will be sharing on social media. Also as part of the launch for the concert lineup for this year, which will go, I believe, is planned for June. So they're working on sort of spreading the news far and wide to attract tourists to Port Colborne.
Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks for the excellent presentation, Olga. There's one thing that isn't on that list that I've asked for 22 years out of the last 30. Still can't get it done, and that is analytics. So we have all these unique visitors who come. We spend all kinds of money getting them here. And at the end of the day, if you were probably the Shaw Festival or a wine festival or anything we buy, whether it's Nike or Shirkston Shores, they're going to try and get your name, and they're going to try and mine that for the rest of the 11 months. I don't know if you have any analytics. I've been asking for analytics across the city. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to capture a percentage of those 60,000 permissatory, whether it's social media or the old-fashioned get your email, and ask them if they like theater and send them theater information, Harvest Fest. All the things we do in Port Colborne could be re-advertised to those folks at little cost. And so I've beaten down the argument about, well, we're not going to send them spam mail. we're going to do it in a very sincere, permissatory, where they agree, rollout program. But I just keep thinking we miss the boat on what everybody else is doing today, and that's analytics. Now, you may not have numbers, Jasmine might, comms might, all that stuff. But it really needs a whole of Port Colborne approach. All the things we put on, we should be trying to gather who's come here and reuse those names in a respectful way to advertise us in the future, which is a very low cost, as you can imagine, way of keeping in touch with folks and telling them the story. And so I don't know if Greg, you can, or Olga, you can do something that nobody else has done in the last 22 to 30 years. And finally, bring us into the new age with that. I mean, to go beyond Canal Days, I mean, I just look at all the venues and all the things we do that could be supporting each other's events for the entire year. And, you know, who comes to Canal Days isn't who goes to Harvest Fest, isn't who goes to an art crawl, isn't who goes to a lot of other things we do. But cumulatively, to let all those people know, like, you know, you get all these people here, and they probably see one day when they're here of what they're at in these 5 blocks. But there's more, we all know, there's more to Port Colborne than those 3 days, but it's our signature event. Support it to the nines, but I just think we could do more on the analytics side to promote the future. And you may have some, Greg or Jasmine may have some, but I've not seen it. I've not seen it often enough. And I don't see a marketing plan for all of Port Colborne that encompasses Canal Days and vice versa. So I'm just wondering if you could look into that or if you have any comments.
Through your worship to Councillor Bruno. Definitely happy to look into that and work with communications. The analytics that we did collect were cellular data back through Environics Analytics, I believe is back in 2022. So it's not someone we can contact. It's just sort of, you came into a footprint, you left. We now have sort of numbers as to you know, who actually came here. But what you're suggesting definitely would be beneficial. It should be a matter of completely differently collecting that from people where they're now sharing, you know, their contact information with us. But you're right, lots of large venues do it. Maybe we can find a way to access these folks and market to them for all the great things that we offer in this community.
Yeah, and I mean, you can even use your vendors, like, you know, who signed up for Empire Sandy, you fill in this thing, right? And they go into our database. So I think it's all about analytics and database management. The other thing, I'm not sure it's a question for you, Olga. It may go to our acting CAO or tonight, or our CAO online. I'm intrigued by the potential numbers of MAT tax for 2025. I mean, I'd like to see the ultimate goal, and perhaps we need a plan to come back, not tonight, but in the future. I mean, I'd like to set a target for whether it's MAT tax or sponsorship. I've always wanted to see the goal where with MAT tax, we ultimately could take Canal Days off the budget line for our levy. And, you know, what's encouraging is sponsorships, which can be up and down, depending on the economic climate and the way we reach out and the benefits that we get. But, you know, when you look at advertising and sponsorship and MAT tax, they kind of insulate weather-related events, which affects the bar, which affects everything. The issues we had last year, you know, shut down. All those things are risk factors that you can't completely eliminate. But advertising, sponsorship, and MAT tax can give a very firm foundation that the bottom doesn't drop out. I mean, we've generally been pretty lucky with weather, but one of these years it could rain the whole 3 days. And so I'd like to see, maybe through the CAO or Greg or Special Events Department, Tourism, perhaps a plan forward that's more than 1 year ahead, like next year's budget, and how maybe we turn that corner. I know we've shot for less than $20 a household. I don't know if Mr. Bowles, if he's online, or anybody else, but when I look at 170 in there in mat tax, and I guess I have two questions off of that. One is, what would that bring the average household down to in terms of funding for Canal Days? And secondly, that looks like a rather aggressive number for 2025, given we haven't concluded the, the word escapes me, short-term, thank you, Acting Mayor, the short-term rental income. So that's a pretty aggressive number. I know we're bringing some Shirkston rentals online right away, but again, in the plan, we don't know how many short-term rentals we have, so I recognize this would be a guess, but I'm wondering if someone could comment on the 170 and how achievable it is without having the short-term rentals licensing in place. And secondly, if we could look at a couple-year horizon on budgeting. That's all I have.
I see Mr. Bowles is online. Maybe he's got some answers to those. Councilor Brown?
Thank you.
Mr. Bowles?
Yeah, through the deputy mayor to councilor and council, a couple of things. So I think if you look at next year, or sorry, I guess this year's Canal Days, the budget, if attained, is about $10 a resident. So we'd actually be down from what I think historically we were saying, the $20. I think if you look at the budget process that we did, we do have a multi-year budget put out for Canal Days, but we have remained conservative with the mat tax. We do believe that if you look 3 years out, once we fully implement the mat tax, once we have short-term rentals worked out, we do believe that we can get that dollar figure pretty close to zero. And I hear what you're saying, Councillor, with respect to you could have a rain day. You also could have a difficult year with, depending on economic situations, sponsorships. So you want to be able to build up a cushion for those odd years. And I think that will be the goal moving forward. So I think we do take it. I can tell council that if you look out a couple years from now, as we work on our multi-years and continue to adjust, you will see that figure come down. Now, I will say, and we did say it during the budget process, this year, because it's our first year with the mat tax, that is the goal. If we do miss it, I think it was a line right on one of the slides that said we would potentially look to either do one of two things: deal with any shortfall from the mat tax in year within the current budget environment, or we would use the contingency reserve one time to be able to maintain the budget envelope. So I think you're right, Councillor. It is the first year. We hope it's not too aggressive, but it very well may be, because we don't have the short-term rentals up and running, that legislation or that bylaw yet. So I guess that's the fallback, and I hope that provides some information for yourself and for council.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear, that there was a plan, there is a plan, and if there's a shortfall, there's a solution there. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Greg?
I just wanted to add a couple of things that we're working on in regards to the weather piece that you spoke to as well. That's in regards to sponsorships, something that we're already strongly working on. We already had a retention strategy soon after Canal Days had happened in regards to having an event for our sponsors and building a retention strategy with those organizations, and definitely taking a team approach across multiple departments that we've already had multiple meetings on, and we're connecting with new and our existing sponsors in regards to building that envelope there and making that year over year, like multi-year contracts, looking to build into, so you have some of that and know like what's coming for years to go. And we're also advocating with our granting organizations, whether it be the province, ideally, if we could, we would find out about these grants earlier on. That would definitely be helpful for us in our budgeting process. A lot of times we find out about the grant pretty close to when the event is actually happening. So definitely advocating when we're putting in for our grants, if we find out if there can be multi-year grants, that would be successful for our events as well.
Good. Mark? Councillor Baggett?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. One question, I got a lot of comments from the last year was the event Saturday night at the park. The fence coming down, the police, and people getting hurt while on the verge, had a big ingrowth of patients, and being on the Canal Day Committee along with Councilor Beauregard, Councilor Bogner, I really haven't heard how we're going to prevent, I guess you can't prevent it 100%, but how we're going to alleviate the percentage of something like that happening again the third year in a row. Like 2 years is good, but we definitely don't want the third year in a row. And you can see the surrounding area fairs closer to Hamilton area, I guess, are having a little bit more difficult of a problem with some people, and I definitely don't want that coming here. And so are we working on something, or is that going to come forward to the committee fairly soon?
Olga, Eric? Greg?
Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Bagu. So it is, you perhaps missed the one committee meeting, but we have definitely, and in the presentation here this evening, so we did an RFP process for the security company, and in that RFP, there was a requirement in the design of the entranceway, because the trouble over the last 2 years that we had in regards to the breach was at our entrance and the flow going into the entranceway, which was causing frustration for the patrons coming in. So having a redesign, but also hiring of our expert security consultant, who we met after Canal Days and going to another festival. We met with this consultant. He works for many large festivals that happen here in Ontario and across the province and the world. And he is going to be advocating and designing a new entranceway. He's going to be pushing our security companies, looking for scenarios where maybe myself or Luke or Olga, our events team, where we don't maybe see some of those cues, but him as an expert is going to be looking for those to prevent some of the issues that we had. And thirdly, in regards to the engineering of our fences, we will also see that we're going to be building, so triangles, putting triangles in the fences makes it harder to push over. So building an engineering components where breaches to our fence will not occur. So, and we're happy to share more in the committee meetings that we have upcoming.
Okay, so I'll wait for some more committee meetings, and I don't know if it's the type of bands we get, but I don't think so, because I know average people that went there Saturday night, but they all went at 9 o'clock when the band started, and it was already full. So just getting them off of, not getting them onto the grounds, probably a better solution. But I'm good, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, further questions of council? Seeing none, thanks, Olga. So moving on to delegations, there are no delegation. Mayor's report, well, there's a deputy mayor's report tonight. So it's my honor and pleasure to be here tonight, serving as the city as deputy mayor, while our mayor is on an unpaid leave of absence until the end of the month. Council, I thank you for your confidence in me appointing me deputy mayor. And we certainly have a lot going on. Speaking of a lot going on, Super Sports Fest weekend. Our 26th annual winter celebration of Sports Fest drew great crowds at venues across the city. Dozens of businesses and community groups coordinated events for the whole family starting Friday afternoon and wrapping up on Sunday afternoon with the polar plunge at the marina. There were just as many spectators as there were polar plungers at the Sugarloaf Harbor Marina boat ramp Sunday. It is gratifying to see this event grow every year, and equally gratifying to see more money raised for Special Olympics every year. Almost $25,000 was raised by 600 donors. Fantastic. More than 100 brave souls registered to plunge themselves in the frigid waters of Lake Erie. Some did it on their own with a friend or relative. Others plunged in teams. The West Niagara Minions joined us again this year with an incredible costumes and community spirit. They raised an incredible $7,500. We thank them very much. I was proud to learn that Port Colborne team raised $2,500. The city team had members from almost every department. In addition to CAO Brian Bowles and Fire Chief Stan Double, we had Doug Hunt from Communications, Andrea Hawkins from Customer Service, Mary Murray and her son Magnus, and Annie Beck from Human Resources, Rachel Tkachuk from the library, Megan Chamberlain from the museum, Curtis Collard from IT, Elisa Durant from Public Works. Gary, did you go in?
No, I played hockey.
Lucky you. Okay. Isn't that great? Way to go, Team Port Colborne. I make special mention of 6 volunteers who handled all the registration. Gord Foster, Dave McKay, Bonnie Snyder, Kim Comfort, Paul Ferris, and Zach Reese. Our business and community ambassador, Olga Lofen, tells me our event is impossible to run without those volunteers. On behalf of the city, thank you. Thank you also to our Marina and Public Works crews who spent a week breaking through the ice and preparing the site for all the brave souls. Thanks to our firefighters for being on site and in the icy water to serve as first responders. We are always grateful for your presence. It really does take an army of staff and volunteers, and staff who also volunteer, to make these events incredible. We are grateful for each of you and for all the Port Colborne business owners and employees who coordinated Sports Fest events and ran Sports Fest specials. Sports Fest Mayor's Cup. Our Port Colborne hockey team had players from almost every department too. We had a win, a loss, and a tie. Not enough to get in the Mayor's Cup playoffs, but enough to make us proud of our players. Councillor Bagu was at the Vale Health and Wellness Center to cheer on the men and women of our team and their rival teams from across the region. Councillor Beauregard crashed into the boards Saturday morning, but scored a goal on his way, so that was worth it, right, Councillor? Councillor Bagu and I were standing together when that happened. We both gasped. He didn't slow down. He was right into the boards. Good. Well, you're lucky that's all that happened, I think. On behalf of the city, congratulations to the winners of each of 4 divisions. Councillor Hoyle was at Center Ice Sunday to present the trophies and plaques. You also coached, I think, Councillor Hoyle, didn't you? Yes. All right. I had my equipment in the car in case of emergencies, but no one called, so, you know. Niagara Region won 3-2 over St. Catharines to claim the D Division. Beamsville Firefighters won 6-2 over Welland to conquer the C Division. Niagara Falls won 6-5 over West Lincoln to clinch the B Division. And the Mayor's Cup champions for 2025 are Port Frontenac, winning 6-0 over Grimsby. It's the 6th consecutive Mayor's Cup championship for the Frontenac team. They may be invincible. Congratulations to all. Now moving on to the Sports Wall of Fame induction ceremony. One of the highlights of Sports Fest is the annual Sports Wall of Fame ceremony. On Saturday evening, the Golden Puck Room at the Vail Center was full of talent, achievement, hometown pride, memories, and heart, a lot of heart. And that was full to overflowing. We may have to look at a bigger venue if we keep inducting teams into the Wall of Fame. So my friend Don Murdoch, for almost a lifetime of playing, these are the inductees, playing and coaching hockey, baseball, golf, and bowling. His love of sport showed in his exceptional abilities and continued in leadership roles long after he stopped playing. Lloyd and Pat Goss were awarded posthumously for their achievements and contributions to football, badminton, baseball, Comet softball, and their steadfast volunteerism with Sea Cadets and Port Colborne Operatic Society. The Gosses were an incredible couple who did so much and who were loved by so many. Ron Favreau was inducted to the Sports Wall of Fame for 40 years of special Olympic achievements in swimming, track and field, bowling, and bocce at provincial and national levels. The juvenile women's softball team from Port Colborne won the Provincial B Championships in 1970. Team members from the Shurook's woodworking softball team shared their stories as they all took part in unveiling the plaque for the Sports Wall of Fame. Likewise, for the Sugarloaf Esso Bantams, the 1980 All-Ontario C Division champs, joined by Coach Jimmy Edwards, who flew all the way from Calgary to be part of the induction ceremony. The ceremony Saturday evening was live streamed on Facebook for people unable to attend. You can watch it again on Facebook or on the city's YouTube channel. Thank you, Mayor Steele, MP Vance Badaway, and the former and current sports and recreation managers, Tom Lannon and Greg Schwepp, for an impressive ceremony to honor the 2025 inductees to Port Colborne Sports Wall of Fame. And Greg, I know you had a couple helpers there too that were doing a wonderful job. Moving on to the Economic Development Leadership Award. Mayor Steele accepted the Hazel McCallion Leadership Award last Thursday evening at the annual gathering of the Economic Development Council in Toronto. He accepted it on behalf of our entire team here at the City of Port Colborne for all the work done to secure several major multi-million-dollar projects for our city, including the AK plant currently under construction. Congratulations to Economic Development Officer Bram Cotton, Director of Development and Government Relations Gary Long, and CAO Brian Bowles and their teams. Port Colborne at the Invictus Games. Gina Provis is the niece of Christine Tice, who has been an assistant librarian for 25 years at Port Library. Gina is in Vancouver and Whistler, BC this week, competing with 56 athletes on Canada's national team in the Invictus Games. Gina grew up in Port Colborne, the daughter of Tony and Pat Harrington. She's a pharmacist officer stationed on Four Wing Cold Lake, Alberta. She served aboard HMCS Athabascan and HMCS Algonquin as a marine engineering technician. She also served in Latvia, part of a multinational clinic with 10 other NATO countries. Gina's parents left Ontario for BC last week with a bag full of Port Colborne pins to trade with parents of athletes from 23 countries. I wonder if they met Prince Harry at Sunday's opening ceremonies in BC. I hope they did. Gina competes in skeleton, biathlon, sitting volleyball, and indoor rowing. The Invictus Games run all this week with closing ceremonies on Sunday. Another award, Touch a Truck Book wins Innovation Award. Each year, Public Works staff invites children and their families to the Operations Center for a Touch a Truck event, which also includes Fire Safety Week demonstrations by our fire department. All the city's equipment is featured on pages for children to write about and to color. The children's work was published in the Touch a Truck book last fall, and that book earned the Minister's Award for Innovation presented by Ontario's Minister of Tourism and Culture. That's a real collaborative achievement by our creative teams at the library, museum, and Public Works. Congratulations to all of you. And the museum celebrates 50 years. 2025 marks the 50th anniversary of the Port Colborne Historical and Marine Museum. Staff and volunteers have a big year of events planned for us. On Friday, for example, which is a professional development day for teachers, children, and adults, are invited to go to the L.R. Wilson Archives on King Street to make a Victorian Valentine's Day card. Drop in at any time between 10:30 and noon. Did you know you can be part of the museum by joining as a member? Many of us here in council are life members. Becoming a member or giving a membership as a gift this year will be a great way to celebrate 50 years of local heritage preservation. And lastly, Family Day. Council and I wish Happy Families Day to all of you here and to those of you watching via live stream. Monday, February 17th is Family Day in Ontario to reflect on the importance of families and to celebrate with loved ones. There are lots of activities planned at the Vale Health and Wellness Center. Please visit the city's website or social media. Monday is also Heritage Day in Ontario, the first day of Heritage Week, which was designated by the province in 1985. And that concludes my report to you as Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Any questions? I can assure you that my reports will not be that long on a regular basis. Okay, Regional Council's report. The Regional Councilor can't be with us tonight. Moving on to the consent agenda. Would anyone like to lift any items from the consent agenda? Council Beauregard first.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the item C, I believe, is that we're talking? The receipt of...
11.4C, the regional, Niagara Region Transit Master
Unless you
Plan.
would like me to speak to that later. I'm not sure. Now?
We
Okay,
can,
yeah.
can do it now. Should we do it right now? Yeah, you want to do that right now before we get further, because this is just a short thing, not like our other ones.
Sure, I can speak to it now.
Good.
So through you, Deputy Mayor, to council and all those watching on TV. YouTube. The Niagara Transit has a survey that is going out for public engagement, and in regards to update to progress of the facilities, strategic assets, and service network master plan. So I really encourage residents to go in and go on the niagaratransit.ca and be engaged and take the survey. There was a public engagement session that was scheduled on February 6th, but due to inclement weather was did not take place, so it's supposed to be rescheduled. I'm not sure, I haven't received any correspondence, so I don't know if it's been if it's still to be scheduled. Maybe staff, if they know, that would be great, but I haven't heard anything. And when I do, I'll be sure to let you all know. There has been some interesting items that have happened so we're not called NRT anymore. It's just Niagara Transit. Just so you know, we did some rebranding. So Niagara Transit, and Niagara Transit has received a $35.6 million grant for funding. That's going to be over the next 10 years. This is part of the Canada Public Transit Fund. So that is good news for Niagara Transit. And then we've also had some changes in terms of the routes. In particular, there's now a new Dane City route with the bridge being open. There's been some change there to incorporate that, as well as a Port Colborne to Fort Erie has changed, so to be a little bit more flexible than what was previously taking place. Residents going from Port Colborne to Fort Erie, they can travel from anywhere in Port Colborne to the Leisureplex, where you'll transfer to microtransit vehicles to your destination within Fort Erie, or to intermunicipal busing to Niagara Falls. Whereas previously, for Port Colborne residents, they would travel from home to Port Colborne City Hall, and then transfer from City Hall to the Leisureplex, and then travel from the Leisureplex to their destination in Fort Erie. So this makes it a little bit easier for Port Colborne residents as well as Fort Erie residents, because this goes both ways. So it's a Port Colborne Fort Erie connection. So that's all I have at this time. Thanks.
Any quick questions on the transit? Councilor Bruno, you want to pose
I think
something?
we're still looking for items to be lifted.
Yes.
Your worship. I prearranged 12.1, but in case it hasn't been, I'd like to do that. I'm wondering if I could be forgiven for asking you something on your mayor's report. I wanted to double check the date. When you mentioned the Invictus Games,
Yes.
I looked and saw that it is the 8th through the 16th, so there's still some time left. And I don't know if our representative there maybe could be brought to a council meeting, or if comms in the meantime, if her events are on, could perhaps film that or lift that, and or perhaps she could even attend via Zoom and we play back that. I mean, I think there's some things to explore there. It would be nice to honor her.
Sure, we can put staff on that. I'm looking around, but I would assume maybe communications staff. So somebody's writing that down right now, I'm sure. And anything further? No? Okay. So moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Bruno. The council hereby approves the listed consent items on the February 11th, 2025 council agenda. Yep, sorry. Councillor Aguilina.
My apologies, Deputy Mayor. I thought we were going back to the consent agenda items. I just have two questions in regard to the correspondence section. Item B, the City of Niagara Falls document, as well as the Niagara Transit that Councillor Beauregard brought up. Both of those have dates that have passed, and I understand looking at the date of receipt that when we received these correspondence items, but I'm just wondering if in the future, if there's a way, like they came in on January 27th, is it possible to not wait the 2 weeks to put it into eScribe, and when there's specific dates for public engagement, if we were allowed to circumvent that rule and put it in the the January 28th council meeting?
I kind of know that staff have that answer because I asked the same thing of them this afternoon,
Okay.
but that's very good. We're going to go to the clerk.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Aquilina. Yeah, absolutely. We can certainly look into that moving forward. It's always tricky timing, and technically these are only put on our agenda for information. And I know for the transit piece of correspondence, the date for the public engagement survey was February 14th. So that's still upcoming. And the other public engagement sections, on the date that we got it, there was some that had already occurred. And these are just for our information. Absolutely. If there's something urgent, per our procedural bylaw, we only do addendums for extenuating emergency items. We try our very best not to have that circumstance. And when we receive these pieces of correspondence, it's always kind of tricky, the timing. Like sometimes we get correspondence from like months ago that's just being distributed at this time. So the dates don't always line up perfectly. We try our absolute best, but for the most part, we use our discretion. And like I said, we don't do addendums unless absolutely necessary. So for items like these, we just didn't see an absolute urgency to them. And so since we put them on the very next agenda that we got them, so hoping that, and keeping in mind that the public engagement for that specific piece was as of February 14th, the survey. So we use our discretion the best we can, but absolutely we will keep in mind to try and be mindful of those key dates for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, when I was reading through them, I thought, well, kind of pointless including this in there. And I apologize, it wasn't the Niagara Falls, it was the Niagara Peninsula item D, but anyways, but thank you.
Okay. So I'll just go back. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Bruno. That council hereby approves the listed consent items on the February 11th, 2025 council agenda, and that the consent items be approved on the recommendations as contained therein. All in favor? Carried. Items requiring separate discussion, 12.1 grain terminal update and public engagement plan 2025-30. And we'll move it to get it on the floor and then turn it over to staff. So moved by Councillor Agolina, seconded by Councillor Elliott. And we will turn that over to staff. And who is going, acting CAO?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Good evening, Council. Just some brief remarks about the grain terminal staff report. So currently, the city's grain terminal is vacant. The tenant that was in the facility for about 10 years decided not to renew their lease, which was set to expire at the end of December. They notified city staff last April of their intention not to renew their lease. So for now, city public works staff, as well as an independent contractor who's very familiar with the grain terminal facility, have been looking after any day-to-day issues that may come up, maintenance, facilities, security, and so on. Just going back to last summer, and this is after city staff had been notified of the tenant's intention not to renew their lease, staff issued a request for expressions of interest to several companies who were interested in possibly purchasing or leasing the grain terminal. It was also shared with other companies and organizations who we thought might be interested in learning more about the grain terminal opportunity. It was also shared on our website and posted on a Bidingo a Bidingo site that's used by public sector agencies for procurement services. So this process generated a few proposals, but at the end of the day, a decision was made to put that process on hold and not come to terms with any particular proponent, and instead engage the community on sort of future options for the grain terminal. So that report is in front of you, and happy to take any questions. But certainly the main purpose of the report is to provide a little background as to how we got to this point. But moving forward, it includes a public engagement strategy that includes a couple of opportunities for local residents to provide their input. That would include an online survey, a paper survey, as well as open houses in March. Those public engagement materials would be available later this month, and we'd close that off in early March and come back to council with findings. Thank you.
Questions, Council? Council Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. I pulled this item because I was interested in one part of the public engagement that sort of led to, or the plan for public engagement, led to really perhaps a new idea, or was intended. When you look at your staff report, you have online survey, paper-based survey, in-person and open house, drop-in sessions. And it's interesting to me that, I think it was in the, let me just double check if it was in the open house one that I read this. I think there was a part of this survey, for some reason I can't find it now, that, I think it was the open houses, that dovetailed into plans for the marina. Is that correct? I can't remember where I just read that. Oh, here it is. It is in number 3. These open houses would collect feedback on both the marina project and the future of the grain elevator terminal. So I was wondering if that will bleed through the other two, the online survey and the paper-based survey, because, I mean, we could look at that whole area in totality, right, as waterfront. Like, one of the things, like, I would like to see what, if we could get a draft of that survey like we did with the hospital. And perhaps there's some ideas that we've discussed that could be added in. So, for example, if you look at the footprint of the grain elevator, there was a time a year ago or more when we had all the fishermen here from the various fishing tournaments, and they espoused the idea that there's no longer really a place to do wall fishing in Port Colborne. And yet, if you went down to the grain elevator, there's an area that is from the office in there back towards our storage that you wouldn't really, you could fence that and not really interfere with the day-to-day of that facility, and you would have a wall area there that you could fish off and keep it away from any industrial traffic or whatever. So it's that kind of thing that I kind of like the idea that perhaps we could tie that in. I mean, the other one was, you know, if you ended up decommissioning and tearing down the elevator, perhaps you could move the current boat storage there that's on that street, along with the stuff that you see behind the store to the gas pumps at the marina. Those boats could potentially move down to the grain elevator thing because they're there and nobody touches them until the boat comes in and out. And then you could use that place closest to the marina as something else, you know. Is it apartments? Is it a condo? Is it something like that? And it's then further away from ADM, and that provides maybe some funding. So you're not really, you're perhaps using an area now that's boat storage that doesn't interfere with any sight lines or anything like that. But those are the kind of things, until we see the survey, it'd be nice to throw in some of that kind of stuff. And so I was also, one last thing, perhaps you could provide to me or to council what the fund is there sitting at. the dollar amount in that reserve fund that was ultimately going to be used for tear down, but some of it got used up for renovation and that. So I don't know if I could at some point get that. But Mr. Acting Mayor, that's all I had. I'm glad we're doing this. I have someone that I've contacted that wants to have a further look at the building, but I think there's lots of ideas and lots of people who have a network that might come up with some great ideas. So I'm very pleased we can do that, and if we can incorporate that marina stuff in with item 1 and 2 and get a draft, I'd be very pleased. Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor.
Mr. Long.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Back to the councillor and to council. I don't have an answer regarding what may be left in a reserve fund for future maintenance and demolition. I know our CAO is online and may have that number, but while he's sort of thinking about that, just going back to a couple of your other points, staff would be happy to share a draft survey with you, with members of council regarding the grain terminal survey. Also wanted to mention that Mr. Pilon and company from Public Works are working on, and actually they finalized a marina dredging report that will be coming to council, I believe, in March, Mr. Pilon?
Through the deputy mayor to the councillor, yeah, I'm not sure if it's going for the next February meeting. If not, it would be in March. Yeah, one of the two. Yeah.
And I think that, thank you. And I think as part of that report, Mr. Pilon and staff will have a presentation to sort of help frame that staff report, which will talk about marina dredging within a broader, greater waterfront redevelopment strategy. And I think back to your point, Councillor, certainly as residents provide comments and whether it's at an open house or complete the survey, we'd like them to think about the grain terminal and its future within the context of the city's waterfront and our marina. So I think we do want that to be a part of it.
Great.
So I think that covers off a couple things I wanted to note. And if our CAO is on the line, he may have comments on the question about reserves.
Mr. Bowles, anything to add?
Yeah, through yourself, Deputy Mayor, to the councillor and council, we have $2.4 million set aside in the city's contingency reserve. Council might remember at the previous council, we reorganized some of the reserves to facilitate some projects. And essentially, we renamed that reserve the contingency reserve for the whole city. So there's 2.4 million, but if we used it to tear down the grain terminal, we would not have a contingency reserve at that point in time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bowles. Any further questions, council? Mr. Long?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a couple of things I just wanted to mention to council because it's relevant, because this report is an update on the city's grain terminal. We have engaged an external party to do what we're calling a market sounding, because and this company would reach out to their contacts provincially, nationally, and globally to see what sort of interest there may be for buying or leasing a grain terminal. I know that in speaking with some councillors, I think there was a concern expressed that maybe in our initial reach out that it was not broad enough. So I think we remembered that, and I think that'll take care of that point.
Great.
The other thing I wanted to mention was that earlier today I met with a company who's interested in leasing the truck scales to support them during the busy harvest season. So again, city staff are looking for opportunities in the meantime to capture some additional revenue to help with the monthly expenses. We haven't come to any agreement with this party, but we think it's going to work for the city as well as them, and we can come to something that is mutually agreeable, but also is in the interests of risk management and liability. So just a couple updates, Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Council, any questions? Seeing none. Duly moved and seconded that Development and Government Relations Report 2025-30 regarding the city's grain terminal update and public engagement plan be received, and that the Director of Development and Government Relations be directed to implement the proposed public engagement plan outlined in this report. Do we have to add anything that, Councilor Brown, it'll just get picked up? Okay, all in favor, Council? Opposed, if any? Carried. Moving on to 12.2, additional funding for West Street electrical improvements, 2025-38. Additional funding for West Street electrical improvements. We'll move it onto the floor and then turn it over to staff. Moved by Councilor Hoyle, seconded by Councilor Beauregard. And we'll turn it over to staff. Who's going to handle this one? Matt, is that your gig? Okay.
Yeah, through the Deputy Mayor to Council, I'm not sure if there's any questions towards the report or if you need me to summarize, but here to answer any questions.
Do you want to do just a real quick summary?
Yeah, for sure I can do that.
Looking at this.
Yeah, so last in 2023, Council approved a report to fund the project to take all the overhead lines on West Street and bury them below ground, as well as relocate some of the overhead lines to Catherine Street. If you drive down Catherine Street today, you can see that there's twin poles right now, and they're actually working on getting the overhead lines to the taller poles. And at the same time, for the past year or so, we've been working on the design and construction for all the new street lighting equipment that'll go on West Street. So we've completed the design of that project. We've tendered the sourcing of the poles for that project, the new street lights and their fixtures. Just last Wednesday, we had the tender close to actually complete all the construction on that, and the lowest bid still puts us over budget for this project. So thankfully, just last December, we had the Pleasant Beach retaining wall project complete, and that was under budget by about $400,000. So we are asking that that remaining budget could be reallocated to the West Street electrical improvements project, and that would leave us with even still a little bit of contingency to fully complete this project. So I understand, we issued it as an addendum to the council agenda tonight. Unfortunately, just with the project closing on Wednesday and the timing of needing to get this done for Canal Days, and we don't want to be in there in the summer any more than the businesses or the residents do. So a bit of a rush item tonight, but that's why we're here.
Thanks, Matt. Council, any questions? Councilor Aguilera?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Matt. We're positive this will be completed before Canal Days, because I don't want to see, us being in a predicament.
Yep. Through the Deputy Mayor to the Councillor, everything points towards us being on time. We've had multiple conversations with the low bidder, although not yet awarded. We're asking for a construction schedule from them showing a completion date, which is stated in the tender as May 16th for the underground, followed by restorations after that. So that's not to say we're done May 16th, but that all of our infrastructure works May 16th. Then we'll complete sidewalks and asphalt after that. So once we receive that schedule from them, obviously we'll be on site every day making sure they adhere to that schedule. And if they're not, then we'll have to come up with solutions with them to make sure that that they do complete it on time, whether that be extended hours of working or additional crews. But we'll have to come to those as they come along. Supplies, at least, don't seem to be an issue. Our poles, you have to order them actually like 20 weeks in advance of actually getting delivery of them. So that happened back in November, and we're still on track to receive them in March. We've had our first round of public notices go out to the businesses. So last week I went to each of the businesses on West Street and just gave them a heads up that this project is coming. No hard start date yet, but once we do have a start date, which we're targeting for March, they'll get another notice and be kept in the loop. But yeah, everything's pointing towards us being there, so long as we approve the funding.
And is there going to be much disruption to the businesses or the street at all?
Sure. Through the deputy mayor to the councillor. What we'd like to do is wherever we can have the road remain open, we will keep the road open. There's a couple areas, a couple blocks to the south, say between Sugarloaf and I think the first street is Adelaide, where it's one way, and that's just a very skinny road. We'll probably have to have a closure there. But for the majority of the blocks, everything north, because most of the work you'll see is actually in the east side of the road underneath the curb line, we expect that we'd be able to at least maintain two-way traffic. And if we're lucky, maybe have parking on the west side, but that's not a guarantee, and that might vary block to block. But our intent is to not close the road wherever possible.
Council Beauregard? Council Bagia?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I guess you save some money on one job and you gotta spend on another job. It's just like at home, right?
Yeah.
No difference. One question, you mentioned you gave notices to the businesses on West Street. Does that mean you also included the residents that live on West Street? Above the businesses?
Through the deputy mayor to the councillor, that's correct. And at least any mailbox I could find that has the units attached to them, I did drop off letters to them. I didn't speak to them individually, but they have at least received a letter.
Great, appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Council Bruno?
Thank you, excellent report. Matt, so they're redoing the decorative lighting at the same time?
Through the deputy mayor to the councillor, that's correct. So every pole that you see on West Street right now, between Sugarloaf and just immediately south of Park Street, will be gone. There's about 5 different types of poles that we have right now. Some are on the hydro poles that are just our regular street lights. Some are the skinny poles. Some are the more decorative. Those are all going to go. New, all same type poles will be installed.
Just on that, can I presume it'll be like the latest and greatest of today's energy efficient and productive lighting?
Yeah, through the deputy mayor to the councillor, that's correct. So it'll all be LED fixtures, and we can always tweak them if we need. So say there's a pole on the west side that is shining into one of the residents' windows, we can put guards on those to make sure that that isn't an issue for them. If we decide that we want the lights to be brighter, although we did upgrade them, if we still want further lighting, you can swap those heads. There was a talking point previously about having catenary lighting, which is the rope lights across. We're making sure that the poles are rated for that. And then also any future upgrades, we're putting in extra conduits in the ground for features that haven't been approved yet. They would require additional funding, but we're talking about maybe Wi-Fi or a speaker system to have music down there, things like that. So the poles should be future-proof for anything we need. Though, like I said, funding has not been approved for those items.
Actually, you answered all, even my subsequent questions. I was concerned, a lot of the LED doesn't, at least to me, and I've heard from residents, doesn't appear to be bright enough in some cases. But if this has that adjustment, that's first class. Because I was also thinking that depending on the look, there might be a demand to redo in that same style for the downtown. So, with with things changing so fast in technology, hopefully there'll be a window of time when they're still available in case we wanted to do other areas in the downtown. But thank you.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through to Matt. Can you say that again about the lights? That they'll be able to be cantilevered across the street?
That's correct. So yeah, catenary lighting or cantilevered rope lights. I know that was a previous request from the BIA, and we were largely told by the ESA these poles are not rated for catenary lighting. These poles will be rated for that. They will have arms that are we're able to fix. We'll have the outlets on them, so the sailboat lights that we still have on all of our poles currently can plug in. The flower pot arms, the banner arms. We're making sure the poles have whatever you want to put on the pole, you can put on the pole.
Just wanted to make sure I heard that correctly so I can report that at the next BIA meeting.
You got it.
Because I know for a fact that there is enough of those lights somewhere close by that we could light up the entire city. So to have that, to be able to string them across West Street and really light it up, I think has been a directive or a want from the BIA for a while. So that's really, really good news. So thanks for that, and I'll take it to them.
For sure.
And I'll tell them who told me.
Thank you, Councillor. Matt, just because I didn't hear you mention it, we had talked some time ago about maybe security cameras. Is that going to be wired for that, or is that not where they would go?
Through the Deputy Mayor to the Councillor, there's no reason the security cameras couldn't be mounted on these poles, essentially because we're making sure that there is added room for additional power usage, additional outlets. It's certainly something that we could look at. Yeah, no reason that these poles wouldn't be able to have security cameras if that was something Council wished.
Further questions of council, staff, anything? No? Okay. Already moved and seconded that Public Works Department Report 2025-38 be received and that council approve the reallocation of $375,000. I know you said 400.
Yeah, there's, to the Deputy Mayor, there's a little money remaining still in the Pleasant Beach capital account. I just didn't want to pull all of it out.
So 375 is the right amount. Okay,
amount, yeah.
good. 375,000 from capital account 23C-PW-R09 Pleasant Beach retaining wall remediation to 23C-PW-R10 West Street hydro lights. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we're in the staff remarks. Can we go first to Brian and whoever's on with you, Steve?
Yeah, this. I have this. Okay, thanks. Thank you, Deputy Mayor and the council. Steve and I are right now at a conference called the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Sustainability Conference. So thanks for letting us attend virtually today. A couple of things we've been doing here is we've been meeting with granting agencies with respect to energy audits and future grants that can be done at the Valley Health and Wellness Center to bring the costs of running that facility down. Council will remember during our budget process, we talk about that facility being almost half the costs of the total utility budget of the city. So those discussions have gone very well. And to Councillor Aquilina and to Councillor Deputy Mayor Bodner today. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, probably can't, but I'll show it when I get back. Steve and I didn't anticipate this, but they had a whole session on the official guide to meaningful access, practical solutions for accessibility. And we know how important that is to council, so we'll bring this back and definitely share that with council. So thank you for letting us attend online. And if I can just shout out and thank you for thanking everybody that was in part of the polar plunge. That was a fantastic activity this week, and I'm still cold from it. But I appreciate everybody that volunteered and supported it.
Steve, did you have anything to add?
Yes, Deputy Mayor. Good evening, all. I just wanted to let council and the public know that staff have been working with our environmental consultant, solicitor, and insurer in reviewing the public's input from the open house we hosted for the waterfront road allowances. Collaborating between the parties has pushed back our expected timeline slightly, as we're anticipating presenting a report to council in April now. So we will be penciling in an exact date in March to ensure that the public is aware and can provide further comment on the new report that's going to come to council. So just wanted to let council know that that timeline has shifted. Thank you.
Any questions of council arising of those two comments? No? Okay. Thanks, guys. We'll move on. Mr. Long, do you have anything?
Just a couple of things, Deputy Mayor, thank you. It was mentioned just now by our CAO, as well as during your Deputy Mayor's report about the polar plunge and the fundraising efforts, which raised almost $25,000, which is tremendous. I know that the goal of the organizing committee was 35,000, and so the link has been left open, and I know that there's been some social media and some emails go around to say, hey, help us achieve our fundraising target. And so we'll see what happens, but that link is still open if anybody so chooses to make a donation. A couple other things, if I may. Just a reminder to residents that there's a couple surveys on the city's website that folks can complete. One is on the future of healthcare in our city, and that survey is online until February 21st. There's also another survey online where we are seeking input on expanding childcare availability. And so we'd love to get input from the community. If you're not able to complete the online option, there are paper copies at City Hall, at the Valley Health and Wellness Center, and at our library. The other thing I just wanted to mention as well, Council, is that there's been a lot of discussion in the community and at Council about the amount of growth and development we are experiencing as a city. Whether it's industrial development from Asahi Kasei and Young Buns Lauer to 7,000 plus units in our residential development pipeline, as well as a bit of commercial development. But we haven't really talked much in these chambers around ensuring we have enough power supply. So just wanted to let council know that this is certainly on staff's radar screen. And to that end, I just wanted to mention that Mayor Steele, Councillor Hoyle, our CAO and myself had some meetings in Toronto a couple of weeks ago with several ministers where we talked about ensuring that the city has adequate power supply for the future, including our industrial users, as well as our residential development. We also had a meeting in Toronto with Hydro One to talk about adequate power supply. And finally, just wanted to mention on a related note that our CAO and myself and Mr. Pilon had a meeting, as well as other staff, had a meeting last week with Canadian National Power, CNP. They reached out to us because they're working on a 5-year distribution system plan, and they wanted to find out about the developments in the city, industrial development, residential development, and commercial development. So they've reached out to us. We've shared with them the development that's taking place, infrastructure projects that they should be aware of as well. So sometimes we forget about ensuring we have enough electricity in our community, but suffice to say, it's on our radar screen at the leadership level and the managerial level, and we certainly receive great support, great political support from council as well. So we'll continue to have those meetings to ensure we have the power we need for the future. Thank you.
Mr. Long, that's good, because every councillor, every time there's a subdivision come on board, we always talk about sewer and water, but hydro just seems to be out there hoping that somebody's looking after it, I guess, and we know that somebody is looking after it, so thank you very much. Greg, anything that...
Yeah, thanks, Deputy Mayor. Just a couple of remarks, just echoing the Mayor's report in regards to Sports Fest weekend. I just want to specifically highlight our two event staff, Luke Rowe and Olga Lofin, for coordinating all the events. I think it was a great weekend to be a part of, and lots of great things that we heard even tonight from the weekend. So special shout out to those staff. I just also wanted to highlight at our arena, we are getting into a very busy time where we have many tournaments and playoffs upcoming. We have our Wave Frenzy tournament coming up this weekend. And our Junior B team will be looking to make the playoffs this year. It's Junior B Sailors, so that'll be exciting. So I just encourage the community when the playoff schedule comes out to come support the team.
And Matt, just because you're sitting there, anything to add?
Nothing for me, thank you.
No? Curtis?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Just there's a couple weather advisories in place right now, so just want to remind the community that please drive according to road conditions, and the crews are ready to respond as needed. And then this weekend as well, potentially some additional weather. So we're monitoring it, and we will respond accordingly. And also just want to wish everybody a happy Family Day.
Hang on, Mary?
Nothing tonight.
Nothing?
Thank you.
Clerk's vision?
Nothing this evening, Deputy
Nothing.
Mayor.
Nobody hiding in the seats or anything? No? I guess we got everybody. Councillors' remarks, and we'll start with Councillor Aguilina.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If I could just add to Gary's discussion about the surveys, there is the option for residents to call customer service and have customer service fill out the survey for them, correct?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, anybody that wants to complete a survey, will help facilitate that in any way we can.
Thank you. I just wanted to congratulate all of the Sports Hall of Fame inductees that we met on Saturday, and congratulate them on their accomplishments, and to thank staff and volunteers for the Sports Fest weekend. It seems to be another huge success. And I think that's it for me.
Polar plunge next year, Councillor Aguilina? Councillor Beauregard.
Thank you. I just want to echo some of the comments of Councillor Aquilina and some of staff's comments and yours as well regarding Sports Fest and the wonderful job staff did in organizing it, as well as just the amount of fun I had being part of it, playing on Team Port Colborne. And although we didn't make it to Sunday, it was still a lot of fun, and playing with our acting CAO right now. I don't think we were ever on the ice together. I don't think we were defensive partners, but we both played defense, and it's nice to be able to be a part of a team that has people from all different departments and in the city, and you just get to meet people that I don't necessarily get to interact with on a daily basis or really all that often. So it's just nice to see some faces and be involved. So great job.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bagu.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Ditto for my past two councillors. And also thank the staff for all this community engagement. We're having childcare engagement, hospital property, the grain elevator, and it's nice to see them putting it out on social media. But we do have some important meetings coming up, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The in-person town hall, the virtual town hall, the open houses regarding the hospital grounds, in the hospital, I guess. So just to make everybody aware, and I'm sure communications are going to put out a reminder for everybody. And please put out a reminder for council too, because there's so many dates. And I find them on the website, but it'd be nice to get an email, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Other than that, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'm good, thanks.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Bruno.
Also reiterate, ditto, 3 times over now, the great job that was done with Sports Fest and the Wall of Fame. I did have, to Greg, an interesting comment from a well-known volunteer in Port Colborne who made some suggestions about the Sports Wall of Fame process. And so he had nominated someone a couple years ago, but there was no response that it was received or, feel free to apply again, those kind of things. So I think there's, from an information point and communications point, he was just wondering a couple things. One is if people nominate someone, would they get a confirmation letter, or can they get some kind of communication that, obviously we try and include everybody, but only so many make the wall this year, and they can do, because I think they think sort of it's none and done, right? They don't get on, so it's over, and they don't understand the internal workings, whether that name is saved to be reviewed for another year, whether they have to reapply. And the other thing I thought was a great idea there is it's such a beautiful wall there and everything, and I think people who see that, I know when I'm at the rink with my grandkids there, people come up to me and say, when's the deadline? What do you have to do to get on there? Where do I apply? I'm just wondering if there couldn't be on the sidewall there, just like a station, maybe it's a plaque, maybe it's glass with the sheets in behind, like, here's how you can apply, here's the deadline each year, not everybody's accepted, and if you need more information, right, here's the contact name and number. And I thought he had another great idea about, we kind of share that front desk with the Y for people who wanted to nominate somebody but perhaps need a paper copy or a print off of what's under glass or engraved there. I think we could make it quite nice, but there's a lot of people walk the track, a lot of people go to games. This would be a great 365-day point of reference, what they need to do. And I think it would reduce the phone calls back and forth, the questions to people, if it was all spelled out there nicely. So just passing that on. I don't know if you have a comment.
Great.
Yeah, through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Bruno. So I think we may have spoken to the same individual, and I did definitely think that it was good feedback. So actually, if you go to our website, to the Sports Wall of Fame nomination form, you will see some of the criteria in regards to nominating for the Wall of Fame. Not every nominee may make the Wall of Fame. If you put in a submission, we will continue to hold that submission and in consideration for the following year, and that criteria is listed, and it is part of the plans to actually list that criteria also at the wall, as you had suggested, off to the side. And part of the thought process was, you had mentioned the desk by the YMCA, but we had thought even having a slot that we would put on the wall with the forms right by the Wall of Fame as well. So I think some very good ideas that came likely from the same individual we talked to, and however we can make this process more known to the community, I think the better. So.
Great, thank you. Thanks. Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just picking up on what Curtis said about the storm coming, just reminded me about the online comments that I saw about our bylaw department handing out tickets for cars that were parked on the road, that we do have a no parking on the road during snow events that has been in place for 20 years, 30 years maybe. It's not new. Everybody should be aware of it. Most cities that get snow have a no parking bylaw. So if you get a ticket and your car was on the road and the snowplow couldn't go down your street, you know why. So just to let people know that there is no parking on the street and there is a bylaw for that. Speaking about bylaw, which I was thinking about earlier until I saw that, we get reports from just about every division, and I can't remember seeing a bylaw report about their activity, about how many tickets they've written for parking infractions, or any other infractions that they come across. I can't remember anybody from bylaw being here to give a report or just send a written one in, and wondered if we could have one at some time the next few months, just to show what they've been doing. When I was reading the complaints online, I thought, I've had complaints about no parking tickets being given out because people are parking far too long in spots. There is an issue down on West Street with a particular parker, if I can call them that, that nothing seems to be done about it. And I just was thinking, we don't ever get a report on what they do. So I don't know whose department that is, Gary, if it's yours, if we could get something in the next little while just to show what bylaw's been up to.
Mr. Long, can you help us out on that?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor, to the councillor. I think first off, we appreciate the councillor's sort of public service announcement about snow removal and bylaw enforcement. So we do appreciate that, just as a reminder. I've just conferred with our CAO, and we will take your request away, and I think we can take a look at that in the future in terms of having bylaw provide a sort of a divisional update with some of the numbers that you've requested. So leave that with us. Thank you.
Further, Councillor? What's that? Councillor Hoyle.
Through Deputy Mayor, thanks for staff for all you did to make a successful Sports Fest this weekend. I was able to sit on the Port Colborne bench, even though these are grown men and women that don't need me there anyway, but it's good to interact with staff all the time. And I was hand out a few awards for the mayor's taking his spot. The other thing that I just want to remind, and it was mentioned a few times by other councillors, we have the Port Hospital survey. You have in-person open house at the Vel on the 19th and 20th. You have another in-person town hall at Roselawn on the 24th, and you have a virtual that you can register for on the 21st. So please get yourself involved in what the future will be for us. And the last is this weekend. There's a Wave Frenzy tournament. There's 3 days of hockey, 23 to 25 teams of all different ages of women, all girls and women. So if you have a chance, come out and watch them play and support your port teams. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to throw one out there too. Greg, I was able to stop by the Sharkside Community Center monthly meeting the other night, and they wanted me to thank you for the help you gave them throughout the year, and also if you haven't been in there to see the new painting, it changes that. There's a new coat of paint put on the ceilings and the walls. Fabulous. And so thanks for that help. I was passing that along. And also through the clerks, that's going to be a polling station for this provincial election. Can it be a polling station again for the municipal election?
So there was, through you, Deputy Mayor, if I recall correctly, there it wasn't a location in the past municipal election in 2022. We can certainly look into having it be a location in the next regular election in 2026. There is no guarantees, but we can absolutely look. I think if I recall correctly, there were possibly some concerns around accessibility in that location. We can look into whether those issues have been resolved and then reassess the polling stations for the next regular municipal election in 2026.
Well, they did resolve them for the provincial, that met the provincial regulations, so that they could have it. So I'd appreciate if you'd look in there. I think Councilor Aguilina can attest that the community was really upset when that wasn't a polling station anymore. So if you could check that out early and see if that meets the requirements, that'd be great. Thank you, sir. Moving on, motions. There's no motions. Any notices of motion, Council? Seeing nothing. Bylaws. Moved by Councilor Bruno, seconded by Councilor Bagu, that the following bylaws be passed and enacted as presented. Bylaw number 7316/07/25. Bylaw 7317/08/25. Bylaw 7318/09/25. And bylaw number 7319/10/25. All in favor? Carried. Okay, Council, we're now moving into closed session. Moved by Councilor Beauregard, seconded by Councilor Hoyle. That Council do now proceed to meet in closed session at 8:24 p.m. under Section 2392C of the Municipal Act 2001, where a closed meeting is held if the subject matter being considered is a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. All in favor? Carried. Thank you everyone for watching. We will not be coming back to live stream, so enjoy the rest of your evening, and we're going to move into closed session. Thank you.